Michael Ratner, Middle East Fellow at the Institute for Policy Studies. Great to see you. So what do you make of KLP's decision to divest assets? Because it's clearly done this not for financial reasons, but for political reasons.
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, these are companies that were divested, that KLP had divested from, that really play critical roles in Israel's illegal occupation in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And while that occupation is happening all the time, the whole world got to see what it looks like this past May when Israel, during Ramadan, was abusing Muslim worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and then displacing residents of neighborhoods in East Jerusalem like Silwan and Sheikh Jarrah, using incredible violence. And there was, of course, this bombardment of Gaza that ended up being part of this whole conflagration in May. And even though there's been a ceasefire, the kind of daily violence of occupation, again, illegal occupation, in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem especially continues. And so I think that what the significance of this divestment is it's saying that the world is not going to ignore this. You know, for Israel to violate international law, to violate human rights in broad daylight, will not go unnoticed or without consequence.
So is this kind of action becoming more widespread, do you think? I mean, given that the occupation of Palestinian territories is considered illegal by the UN, do you think other big funds and other companies will do the same kind of thing?
Well, certainly that is what the Israelis are concerned with. In fact, last year in February 2020, the United Nations published a list of companies that do business as part of this illegal occupation. And as the Israeli government condemned it, worried about precisely this kind of action in response. So given Israel's ongoing violence, despite a new government, despite the fact that Netanyahu's out, the displacement continues and arguably is ramping up in Jerusalem especially. Yes, I think that we can expect more activity like this as more and more individuals, organizations, and institutions see it as untenable to be invested in this kind of violence.
Do you think investors will see it the same way, though? Because if you're invested in a pension fund and your pension fund says that it's no longer investing in some quite profitable companies because of these links to occupied West Bank illegal settlements, do you think investors will take the same view?
You know, I would hope, and I'm sure that people who embrace Palestinian human rights as a matter of course would hope that simply recognizing Palestinians' humanity is enough to be cause to divest in companies that are doing business in Israeli apartheid. However, I think that what this indicates from KLP in Norway is that there's actually, whether you're concerned with Palestinian human rights or not, there's a political liability to being invested in Israeli apartheid. And that was the case with South African apartheid as well. There were those individuals and organizations and unions and companies that, for moral reasons or political reasons, thought that it was untenable to be invested in South African apartheid. And then there were those that, purely based on a financial calculation, came to see it as problematic and a liability for them to be invested in South Africa economically. And I think that we are reaching a similar situation when it comes to Israel.
Really interesting stuff. Thank you very much indeed for that. Khury Petersen-Smith there.